I think we all a lot of appreciation to the audience for coming here and giving us a lot of insights. Originally, when we put together this case, a fairly short period of time, a year ago, our focus was on cities. And we looked hard at some cities, in particular Charlotte, North Carolina, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Willie mentioned Pittsburgh, where outstanding job has been done, and Detroit, Michigan. And other than Quicken Loans, there wasn't enough of a story into Detroit to really write a case around. Yeah. But the big three were a case. And so it's interesting, the dichotomy. And so I think we're at the right conclusion that we're only part of the way there, and there's a long way to go. But you know, I'm a heck of a lot more optimistic than I was 3 years ago. I was very pessimistic, having watched this decline for 50 years. So I'm much more optimistic today. But you know, that gets back to, we can talk about leadership, but the leaders are you. You're the leaders that have to make this community go. And a community is only as strong as the leaders in the community. I don't think we can rely on the politicians to do it for us, even if we have some politicians in the room. Each of us has to step up and take action. So I'd like to bring it together around a call of action. And I want to encourage us, you know, we don't have to change everything in Eastern Michigan or in the city of Detroit, but we have to take action where we can make a difference, because all of us coming together will make a collective difference. And I would urge you, do not wait for the federal government. The whole country's been in suspense, seeing who's going to get reelected. I've been saying all along, it's kind of like waiting for Godot. You know, the Samuel Beckett's famous play. We're waiting for Godot to come in, and the Messiah is going to save us. There's no Messiah coming in here from Washington. I can tell you, and talking to the leaders of General Motors, I can tell you right now, Chet, they'd like to be out from under, and they'd like to be able to repay the federal government. They're not happy about that because it's constraining their freedom of action right now. And basically, the election didn't change anything. We've got the same faces. We've got the same issues. We're right back into the fiscal cliff discussion, and I can tell you, however that fiscal cliff is resolved, it's not going to solve the long-term issues of Detroit and Eastern Michigan or the automobile industry. But that's only going to be solved by the leadership here. Gridlock is still alive and well in Washington, and I think we're better off putting our time and energies right here and trying to solve the problems. And because so often we get into these win-lose struggles in government, and they take us away. And there's so much more. Yes, there's a lot of obvious things that need to be done that can be done at the federal level. Everyone agrees on them. Mike Porter and Jan Rifkin are written about them. You know, it's obvious we should permit people who graduate from Harvard Business School from India or China to stay in the country, but we don't. And H-1B visas are an obvious one. And I think there are a number of obvious things that can be done, like righting the fiscal condition of the country and dealing with some of the illogical tax structures and supporting this remarkable energy turnaround that's going on and having some fiscal discipline in the country. But I think really what we need to do is create win-win-win solutions. And I think in the past we haven't had that, and it's really hurt us. And so but I do see a whole new mindset coming out now. And yes, near-death experiences do sharpen the mind. And I think that's absolutely right. So, and I think I think we can use this resurgence as a basis and an opportunity to take advantage of it. Okay, the jury's still out. But there's so much left to be done. So I'd like to talk about what needs to be done now. You know, let's not just talk about the past. Let's talk about how we got there. What needs to be done? One of the things that vitally needs to be done are supplier networks. Vital, innovative, creative suppliers. And I think that's something that needs to be put in place. That's part of having a strong cluster that Mike has written about. And yes, Detroit got too dependent on this one industry, but we can make that industry a lot more vital. We got one of the great universities of the world, just a few minutes here down in Ann Arbor. We've got great opportunities, and we've seen the suppliers go under. We need to have a supplier resurgence. Part of that is why should the Germans do so much of the advanced technology in the automobile industry? It makes no sense to me. Why can't it be done right here? You know, frankly, if I were the automobile companies, I'd put up a $1 billion venture capital fund and start investing in small companies and take up Chet's idea of moving back here. And yes, you can do that. They're doing that in Charlotte. They're doing it in Minnesota. And I think that same kind of thing can be done here. But we've got to create the infrastructure to do that and make it easy for people to start companies, not just cheap, but to get the support structure that you have in a Silicon Valley. And I think a lot is left to be done on that score, but there's a lot to be done. I love what Quicken Loans is doing, but we need a number of leaders to take up that kind of approach. Because the question I'd leave you with is, can you have a really healthy suburban area and healthy industries on the ring of the suburbs and with a dying inner city? And I really don't see any examples in the country or in the world where that's the case. I just don't think over the long term it can work. And I think that issues need to be addressed. It's easy to say Detroit proper city limits are past the point of no return. I remember as a boy coming in, my biggest thrill was driving my father down to see my hero Al Kaline lose to Ted Williams when he hit a grand slam home run and getting both their autographs. As a boy, that's what we used to do all the time. That was great, downtown Detroit in those days. Okay, we're not going back to that, but we can certainly go forward. I love the example you mentioned of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a great example of what can be done when you diversify your industry and you bring in more. I think what's required to do that, though, is a revamping of the education system. Because here, let's face it, the vast majority of employees that are going to work around here get their K through 12 education and their university education. Okay, there's a handful of Harvard and Stanford and other business school graduates, but the vast majority of people are getting their education. Are those education systems equivalent to an Indian education, to a Chinese education, to a Japanese, to a German education? If they're not, they need to be revamped. Now that needs to be complemented with very strong skills training and entrepreneurship. One of the significant things we got out of Charlotte, they brought in Siemens. Siemens called their entire their entire energy business headquartered in Charlotte, and with it, they said, we've got to have an apprenticeship program. So they've got Central Piedmont Community College, some 50,000 students. They are going in and retraining workers. We need to have fully trained workers. If workers are going to if we're going to turn that curve around, Jan, to get the average wage and salary up, income up for people, and get our middle class thriving again, it's not just about cutting their taxes, not just giving them benefits. It's really about giving them skills. And I'd much rather see us focus on that than just figuring out how to cut taxes again. I think it's much more about having the skills to be a really skilled workers. I've visited the German plants. These people are very, very skilled, the same in the Japanese plant. We need to have that same high level of skill. With that comes the pride you mentioned, the example you gave, Willie. Yes, every single worker should have that pride or they shouldn't work here. And we need to have that deep level of pride, and that is a question of leadership and being out on the floor, less middle management, more focus on the floor. And I think technology development is essential. There's no reason that Detroit can't lead the way in fuel efficiency and consumer electronics to have not just the best, not as good quality as everyone else, but the best quality and safety record as well. And I do think the fuel advantage is going our way, and we can turn that very favorable right now. So those are some of the ideas I have. But I think the other thing I would throw in, because I come from the healthcare business, I've visited all the hospitals here. They have some of the finest doctors, the finest hospitals in the world, and some of the worst health. Okay? Michigan is not the leader in the country in good health. Okay? And I was struck by my friend who's John Mackey at Whole Foods. They're putting 7 Whole Food stores here. Very significant. Inside Detroit. Okay? It's significant. They're making that kind of commitment. I think we need to focus. You don't have healthy workers, you won't have high-quality product, I can guarantee you. And everyone needs to be healthy. People need to be 100% present. You don't want people out with bad backs. You want them on the job because they love their work so much. They get excited every day. And that's the kind of excitement I think we need. So each of us can contribute to that. And I think most important of all, I think this is a role model for making manufacturing in the United States competitive again. That's what Willie and I'm not trying to promote their book, but that's what Willie and Gary Pisano are talking about.
I'll do it.
We need to make the U.S. competitive. This is not, I don't buy any of the post-industrial society arguments. We're all going to be working at Burger King in the future and making $10 an hour. This is not a recipe for the future of America. America's strength is in high-tech, as in entrepreneurship, innovation, high technology, and skilled manufacturing. And this is a good place to start to lead the country forward in doing it. So what I'm asking is, will each of you step up and make a commitment right now to do that in your own sector? When Robert F. Kennedy was alive, he went to Johannesburg and he said, few will have the greatness to bend history itself. Well, there are a few, maybe I won't do it, but but he went on to say, but each of us can make a commitment to a series of actions to make the world a better place in our own environments, and the sum total of all those actions will write the history of this generation. And it's my hope that this generation that we're going to bequeath to our children and grandchildren is going to be a lot more vital for the United States, and you all can do it. So all I'm asking now is, will you step up and make a commitment? It's a privilege to be here. If you'll make that commitment, we'll stand with you and support you every step of the way. Thank you.
Thanks.